If you think Atlanta's wealth is built only by rappers and athletes, think again. Behind the city's billion-dollar boom are business dynasties run by women who quietly became billionaires while the rest of the city wasn't looking. From tech innovators to food rescue disruptors, these are the 8 female powerhouses shaping the new Black Mecca. And stick till the end, because the woman sitting at the very top of this list has rewritten the entire game. Number 8. Dr. Tiffany Bussey, the strategist. If Atlanta had a chief architect of Black entrepreneurship, it would be Dr. Tiffany Bussey, the woman who turned Morehouse's Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center into a launchpad for hundreds of minority founders. And ironically, her own rise didn't start with flashy business ideas or inherited capital. It started with something far more dangerous, a mind that could see systems where other people only saw problems. From childhood, Tiffany wasn't the kid dreaming of owning a business empire. She was the kid analyzing why the lemonade stand across the street was failing while hers stayed profitable. She obsessed over structure, logic, resource flow, and why some ideas scale while others choke before takeoff. That brain later pushed her deep into academia, where she carved out a path built entirely around organizational strategy, economic development, and the science of helping entrepreneurs survive the brutal early stage. Before Atlanta knew her name, she worked across multiple research programs and incubators, quietly studying what makes minority founders struggle, and more importantly, what helps them win. Every project she touched sharpened her ability to design ecosystems, not just teach business plans. Where most people chase the spotlight, Tiffany chased the infrastructure behind the spotlight. Her breakthrough came when she was appointed director of the Morehouse Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center, a role that instantly transformed her from support professional into one of Atlanta's most influential economic engineers. Today, MEC under her leadership isn't just a school program, it's a pipeline. Founders come in with ideas. They leave with strategy, mentorship, investor readiness, and the confidence to navigate industries that historically didn't open their doors to them. And unlike many academics who stay behind the desk, Tiffany monetized her expertise in the real world. Her income streams come from director-level compensation, strategy consulting, sponsored partnerships tied to entrepreneurship education, research collaborations, and a steady lineup of conferences and panels where she breaks down the mechanics of equitable ecosystems. Brands work with her because she doesn't speak theory. She builds frameworks that actually move the needle. Her philosophy is simple. Black entrepreneurship doesn't thrive from individual wins. It thrives from collective access. And everything she creates at Morehouse reflects that. Innovation labs, startup training cohorts, community investment research, and programs directly tackling resource inequality have earned her recognition as one of Atlanta's top 100 Black women of influence. But here's the kicker. Tiffany didn't become wealthy by selling products. She became wealthy by building the structures that help thousands of other people sell theirs. And if you think that sounds powerful, wait until you meet a woman who didn't just build infrastructure, she built a multi-million-dollar tech empire out of wasted food. Number 7. Jasmine Crowe-Houston, the woman who turned food waste into a tech empire. Jasmine Crowe-Houston's story starts the way most legendary entrepreneur tales begin, with someone solving a problem nobody else thought was solvable. Long before she became a multimillionaire, Jasmine was the girl organizing community projects, coordinating charity events, and turning every situation into an opportunity to help people. But unlike typical charity models, Jasmine hated the idea of bare minimum giving. She wanted dignity, not leftovers. Meals, not scraps. So she did something wild. She hosted full, self-funded pop-up dinners for the homeless. White tablecloths, plated meals, the whole nine. And in 2017, when a video of her cooking for hundreds went viral, America suddenly asked the question she'd been asking for years. Why are we wasting billions of pounds of food when people are starving? That moment didn't just bring attention, it brought investors. A year later, Jasmine officially launched Goodyear in Atlanta. And no, it wasn't another feel-good nonprofit. It was a tech-powered logistics company that treated surplus food like a business asset. She built a real-time tracking system, blockchain transparency, client dashboards, and a full-scale logistics model that redirected excess food from corporations straight into communities. Suddenly, what used to be trash became a revenue-saving strategy for airports, stadiums, corporations, schools, and government agencies. Gooder grew because Jasmine designed it like a business, not a charity. Corporate contracts, tech licensing fees, multi-city expansions, government partnerships, branded school grocery stores, every part of Gooder was engineered for sustainability, not donor fatigue. And she didn't run this empire from a boardroom. Jasmine has always been the CEO in sneakers, loading boxes, directing volunteers, and showing up on the ground. When the pandemic hit, Gooder became one of the country's most effective rapid response food relief systems, distributing tens of thousands of meals monthly while helping corporations reduce waste and save money. Media features, Forbes lists, innovation awards, all earned. But the real flex is this. Jasmine built a logistics empire that solves hunger and waste at the same time, and she made it profitable. And now we move on to our next story, a woman whose entrepreneurial empire didn't start with food, tech, or education, but with pure Atlanta entertainment royalty. Number 6. Kandi Burruss, the entertainment architect, who turned Atlanta into her personal business lab. If there's one woman in Atlanta who treats every new venture like a controlled experiment in profitability, it's Kandi Burruss. She's the rare kind of entrepreneur who refuses to pick a single lane, mostly because she keeps turning every lane she touches into a revenue stream. Music, television, restaurants, product lines, real estate, content production. She runs all of it with the quiet confidence of someone who learned early that ownership will always outshine fame. Her $30 million net worth is just the numerical summary of a mindset she built before she even left her teens. Most people first met Kandi in the 90s as part of the R&B group Xscape, where she was the sharp, business-minded one paying attention to contracts and publishing while everyone else focused on performing. Unlike most artists who get swept up in the rush of early fame, Kandi studied how money actually worked in the industry, who owned the songs, who controlled the royalties, and who got paid long after the spotlight moved on. That early awareness is what turned her into a Grammy-winning songwriter before she hit 25, with credits on hits for TLC, Pink, Alicia Keys, Mariah Carey, and Destiny's Child. No Scrubs alone still pulls in royalties every year, which means Kandi essentially set up a lifelong annuity, while most artists her age were only concerned with album sales. But the real turning point came in 2009 when she joined The Real Housewives of Atlanta. Most reality stars treat the show like visibility. Kandi treated it like distribution. Every season became a launch pad. Sometimes it was a product line, sometimes a restaurant, sometimes a stage play. She tested ideas in real time with a national audience and a massive Atlanta customer base, and the results kept turning into profitable ventures. Her restaurant empire started with Old Lady Gang in 2017, honoring her family's recipes and transforming them into one of the most visited soul food spots in the city. Fans lined up, tourists flew in, and Kandi expanded the brand with additional locations and spin-off merchandise. Then came Blaze Steak and Seafood, a higher-end concept that proved her dining ventures weren't just riding on fame, but on real culinary execution and strong operations. At the same time, she built Bedroom Kandi, a direct sales intimacy brand that quietly grew into a multi-million-dollar company with sales ambassadors across the country. She added Kandi Coated Cosmetics to the mix, leveraged TV production opportunities, invested in real estate, and continued earning from royalties, licensing, and touring income. On paper, it may look like she's juggling too much. In reality, she's simply applying the same strategic formula across industries. Build the brand, secure the ownership, diversify the revenue, and let the visibility fuel the sales. What makes Kandi particularly influential is not just the size of her empire, but how deliberately she built it within Atlanta. She created hundreds of jobs, especially for young Black professionals in entertainment, hospitality, and production. She also became a blueprint for artists who finally realized they didn't need to choose between creativity and entrepreneurship, because she never did. Kandi didn't pivot from music to business. She fused them until they became one operational system. one where every creative idea led to a product, a brand, or a business with recurring revenue attached. And as we move up the list, the next woman takes that same blend of cultural relevance and business strategy and pushes it into a $100 million food empire that feels more like a lifestyle movement than a restaurant chain. Number 5. Pinky Cole, the mogul who turned a vegan food truck into a $100 million cultural movement. Most restaurant founders dream of having lines out the door. Pinky Cole has lines that stretch around the block, down the street, and into social media feeds nationwide. She didn't just create a restaurant brand, she created an experience, loud, bold, humorous, culturally aware, and then packaged it into one of the fastest-growing vegan food businesses in America. Her company, Slutty Vegan, isn't just valued in the tens of millions. It's estimated well over 100 million once you factor in brand equity, merchandise, and expansion. Born on December 8, 1987, Pinky always had a flair for theatrics and big ideas. She understood early on that food experiences don't just succeed because they taste good. They succeed because they make people feel something. Long before she launched Slutty Vegan, she owned a restaurant in New York that sadly burned down. Many entrepreneurs might have taken that as a sign to slow down. Pinky treated it like a lesson in resilience, operations, and risk management, all skills that would resurface when she built her second empire from scratch. Slutty Vegan launched quietly in September 2018 as a delivery-only concept. A food truck, a bold name, a few plant-based burgers, simple ingredients with explosive potential. The first physical store opened in early 2019 in Atlanta's Westview neighborhood, and almost immediately the lines became the brand. People waited for hours, and they didn't complain. They filmed videos, posted stories, and turned the queue into part of the entertainment. The menu names were cheeky and unforgettable. The atmosphere felt like a block party. The branding was unmistakably hers, bright, playful, and unapologetic. By the time most restaurant owners consider opening a second location, Pinky was fielding investor calls, appearing on national news, and scaling her operation to multiple states. Today, Slutty Vegan has more than 11 locations across Georgia, New York, Birmingham, and Dallas, each with the same energy and identity that made the flagship go viral. But the empire doesn't end at food. Pinky built a merchandise line, integrated media partnerships, secured celebrity endorsements, and expanded into grocery products and collaborations. She became a national figure in plant-based entrepreneurship and turned vegan cuisine, which many Black communities historically overlooked, into something familiar, fun, and culturally aligned. Her impact extends far beyond the counter. Pinky hires within the communities she serves, funds scholarships, leads youth empowerment programs, supports local entrepreneurs, and donates to food insecurity initiatives. She's known not just as a CEO, but as a cultural catalyst, someone who turned plant-based eating into a lifestyle embraced by people who never considered vegan food before. Pinky didn't just create a food brand. She built a movement that sells culture, confidence, and community, with the burgers acting more like an entry point into a far bigger ecosystem. And if her journey shows how culture can power a food empire, the next woman proves that culture can also power the largest Black-owned media company in the country. Number 4. Cathy Hughes, the pioneer who built the largest Black-owned media empire in America. If entrepreneurship had a Mount Rushmore, Cathy Hughes would be carved into the front. She is the first Black woman in American history to own a publicly traded media company, and she built that empire in an era when the idea of a Black-owned national network barely existed. Her $250 million net worth represents more than wealth. It represents an institution, a legacy, and decades of influence. Born in the 1940s, Cathy grew up surrounded by financial instability, racial barriers, and limited opportunities. Instead of shrinking under those constraints, she learned survival, negotiation, and assertiveness, skills that would later become central to her leadership style. By the time she entered radio in the early 1970s, she had the grit and strategic mind to climb an industry that rarely opened doors for Black women. Her early career was defined by relentless work. She learned every position inside a radio station: programming, advertising, operations, audience targeting, sales. She famously slept at the station for periods of time because she couldn't afford housing and knew the company needed her there day and night. That level of immersion gave her a rare 360-degree mastery that most executives never achieve. In 1980, she made the move that shifted the trajectory of her life. She purchased her first radio station. Not to follow industry trends, but to break them. She rebranded the station specifically to serve Black audiences with content that reflected their culture, their conversations, and their concerns. It was revolutionary at the time. Few stations centered Black listeners outside of music programming. Her strategy was clear and bold: build representation first, scale second. From that single station, Cathy expanded deliberately, eventually forming what we now know as Urban One, a media powerhouse with more than 50 radio stations, a major TV network, TV One, and digital platforms that dominate Black online media. She built a multi-sector advertising network, created job pipelines for Black journalists and producers, and designed a company structure that allowed her to maintain cultural authenticity even as revenue climbed. Her wealth comes from stock ownership, dividends, executive compensation, and new media expansions, but her legacy comes from representation. Cathy didn't simply build profitable stations. She built cultural infrastructure, places where Black stories, voices, news, and entertainment had a consistent national home. As the company expanded, she passed operational leadership to her son, Alfred Liggins III, ensuring generational continuity. Today, Urban One remains the largest Black-owned media corporation in the United States, a testament to one woman who refused to let the industry dictate who deserved to be heard. And now that we've explored the women shaping Atlanta's culture, wealth, and business ecosystems at the highest levels, the top three will take this list into the territory of national influence, legacy building, and transformative entrepreneurship on an entirely different scale. Number 3. Beyoncé Knowles-Carter, the global billion-dollar blueprint. Beyoncé doesn't just perform, she architects. From her Destiny's Child days to her billion-dollar solo empire, she's rewritten what power looks like when the artist owns the narrative, the masters, and the means of production. Early on, Beyoncé learned the oldest lesson in business: control your catalog, control your future. Through her company Parkwood Entertainment, she didn't just manage her career, she built an entire ecosystem that includes music, film, fashion, and global branding. Ivy Park, her athleisure line in partnership with Adidas, became a case study in how celebrity brands can redefine retail without losing authenticity. And while the world sees her as a Houston native, Atlanta has always been her second creative home. The city's producers, dancers, and creative directors have helped shape her sound and visual identity for decades, from the days of Crazy in Love to the spectacle of Renaissance. Her tours pump millions into the local economy, employing hundreds of Atlanta-based stylists, techs, and crew. Even her philanthropic ventures, including support for HBCUs like Spelman and Clark Atlanta University, tie her legacy firmly to the Black Mecca's heartbeat. But the real flex? Beyoncé's empire isn't just musical, it's managerial. She runs her own publishing, controls her masters, and invests in emerging creatives and tech startups through her family office. Her net worth, which hovers around $800 million to $1 billion, comes not from endorsements, but equity. And if Beyoncé built her wealth through rhythm and reinvention, the next woman shaped the very stage that made those rhythms global. Number 2. Oprah Winfrey, the global empress who still shapes Atlanta. To talk about Black wealth without mentioning Oprah Winfrey is like talking about tech without mentioning Silicon Valley. She didn't just break ceilings. She replaced the roof with glass so clean everyone else could see through. From The Oprah Winfrey Show to OWN Network and Harpo Productions, Oprah turned empathy into enterprise. Her journey from small-town Mississippi to global media moguldom reads like a masterclass in emotional capitalism, monetizing authenticity long before the influencer era. Her net worth, sitting around $2.8 billion, comes from decades of disciplined ownership. She didn't just appear on screen, She owned the screen. Atlanta plays a quiet but vital role in her orbit. She's been a major donor to Spelman and Morehouse, two of the crown jewels of Atlanta's HBCU network, endowing scholarships and leadership programs for decades. Her philanthropic fingerprints are all over the city's civic institutions, from mentorship initiatives to film and cultural collaborations. Beyond philanthropy, Oprah's influence seeps into Atlanta's own media identity. OWN Productions regularly spotlight Southern Black life, and her partnerships with creators like Ava DuVernay and Tyler Perry have kept Atlanta's film economy booming. Perry's massive studio complex even sits on land once used for Confederate bases, and Oprah's investments helped seed the vision that turned it into a modern fortress of Black creativity. And finally, at number 1, the woman who helped build the empire Oprah once ruled. She didn't just make media history, she turned it into marble and built billion-dollar resorts on top. Number 1. Sheila Johnson. From Black entertainment to billion-dollar estates. If there's a single name that captures the full arc of Black excellence in Atlanta, from boardrooms to five-star ballrooms, it's Sheila Johnson. You might know her as the co-founder of Black Entertainment Television, BET, but that's only chapter 1 in a story that reads like a masterclass in reinvention. With a fortune estimated between $850 million and $1.1 billion, Johnson didn't just make history, she remade it twice. In 1979, alongside her then-husband Robert L. Johnson, she invested just $15,000 into a bold idea, a cable network centered on Black entertainment. That idea became BET, the first of its kind, shaping the cultural landscape of Black America for decades. When Viacom swooped in and bought the network for $3 billion in 2001, Sheila walked away with a 9-figure windfall. But while most would have called it a career, she called it an intermission. Because here's the twist. Instead of retiring in comfort, Sheila Johnson went and reinvented herself. She took her BET windfall and turned it into something nobody saw coming: luxury hospitality. Her brand, Salamander Hotels and Resorts, is now one of the most acclaimed Black-owned luxury resort groups in the world. From the flagship Salamander Resort and Spa in Virginia to properties across the U.S., her portfolio blends art, architecture, and Southern charm with quiet power. And the Atlanta connection? It runs even deeper. She's a frequent keynote speaker at the city's Black Wealth Summits, philanthropic galas, and entrepreneurial forums. Her resorts attract Atlanta's elite for retreats and weddings, while her investments in education and civic programs tie her directly to the city's leadership circles. She embodies that next-generation wealth ethos, one built not on celebrity, but on structure, scale, and sustainability. Beyond the glamour, Sheila is also a serious investor, part owner of multiple sports franchises, including the Washington Capitals and Washington Wizards, making her one of the few Black women with equity in major U.S. sports teams. Her net worth sits around $1 billion, but her real power lies in her ability to move between worlds, from corporate boardrooms to Black philanthropic circles to luxury hospitality suites. To sum it up, Sheila Johnson turned the glow of television into the glow of a 5-star empire. Proof that when Black women build, they don't just make history, they make hospitality. And this concludes our journey through the 8 richest female Black business dynasties in Atlanta. Which one of these money moguls fascinated you the most? Let us know in the comments, and for more such interesting peeks into the lives of the rich, take a look at the channel.